Hello, everyone. Welcome to Zen and Fanfics. Today we are featuring What If Deku Was Sly Cooper's Child? The story is written by Mrotrax on fanfiction.net. Before we start, please like and subscribe for more content. Now let's dive into the story. The headlines would get everyone's attention. Missing child turned TGIF. Hero or criminal? Countrywide investigation begins. Japanese boy arrested under suspected murder of art collector. The supposed criminal featured in all these stories. A 13-year-old boy with green hair akin to broccoli and jade eyes with freckles, being escorted by a lovely fox bee-skin Interpol agent and dressed in a domino mask and a costume with a stylized C on it. He was accompanied by a raccoon beastkin who seemed to be comforting him, and judging by the hints of a smile, doing a good job. Excerpt from the private journal of Sly Cooper. If you were to tell me that Bentley, Murray, and myself would, on top of becoming legendary thieves who saved the world at least twice, raise a kid who would become the greatest hero of our age, I'd have laughed and asked what the heck they were putting in your food. Now, I can't imagine life without our little green hero. I'm putting this down here because as much as we love him, Izuku doesn't really fit the criteria of those in the Thievous Raccoonus. Besides, we don't want his legacy dampened by an association with us. That may be Carmelita getting to me, but I'm not taking chances. But man, what a story it is to tell. 5 years before the events of Sly Cooper, one 15-year-old Sly Cooper, alongside his best friends Bentley Mac and Murray Molly, ready for a relaxing day in this Japanese natural park. Just the three of them, the appealing scenery, the chance to bathe and drink good water when things died down, and that basket coming along the river. Wait, what? Indeed, a basket was floating down towards them. Bentley, Sly asked, but his friends already saw as well as heard. A scream erupted from the basket, and movement came from inside. Shush! A fearful Murray gently begged the basket. Quiet, the cops'll hear ya. As Sly tried to assure the hippo they HD no such worries, Bentley opened the basket and gasped at what he saw. It's a baby. Indeed, inside was the single cutest human baby the 3B skin had ever seen. A puff of green hair and freckles. He seemed to calm down slightly at the sight of them, whimpered as he reached for them. Who could have left this poor little guy floating down the river? The turtle asked in shock and a small bit of anger. This is no Momotaro or Moses. No idea, Sly said, his usual smile turned upside down. Poor kid must have been abandoned. He looks so alone and scared. Can we keep him? Murray asked hopefully. Sly and Bentley struggled to answer that question. The three of them had been on the run from the orphanage for 3 years already, and money/food was already tight for them, even and especially with the van they had fixed up. A baby would complicate things considerably. They also did not have criminal records yet, so they theoretically could take him to the police and leave him with them. Frankly, they'd sleep better if they did. But then they remembered the orphanage. It hadn't been too bad. The staff were all nice, and the kids always had foods and some toys to play with. But the boys never forgot that they had been tossed aside and dumped onto someone else. Just like this poor baby. So unwanted he had been tossed into a basket that made it into this river, seemingly without care for if he lived or died. The trio exchanged a silent conversation. This was probably one of, if not the dumbest decision of their lives so far. Yet they all agreed. Sly gently picked up the baby, nuzzling his nose as Murray handed the baby a rattle he had spied in a garbage can earlier. Bentley, meanwhile, found some papers. Izuku Midoriya. Mother, Inko Midoriya. Father, Hisashi Midoriya. Bentley searched for them on the database, only to find out they were both deceased, killed in a traffic accident. As horrid as that news was, the solidified their decision. Finding Izuku was easy. Adoring him, even more so. Then came the hard part, Parenthood. 2 years later, Sly. A snore escaped the dashing thief in training's mouth. Sly. The raccoon stirred. I got to go. Go. Go where? No. The toddler whined, stepping up a storm. I gotta go. Oh. Sly, now realizing, jolted upwards. Why didn't you say so? Sequoia and Kings Canyon National Park's great shaman tree, Izuku Cooper. Get down from there right now. Sly hollered the 3-year-old had managed to somehow reach the branches of one of the tallest trees in Te-World-Uhu. He cooed. You guys look like dots. I'm counting to 3. Sly threatened. Izuku spied a nearby branch and leapt for it, only to miss and begin to fall. Bentley hurriedly ran around to catch the boy in case Murray failed. Aya! Murray screamed as he raced to catch the boy as Sly began to count down, not realizing the danger the boy was in. 1, 2. Murray leapt upwards and caught the boy only to land on Sly. 3. That night, loud snores and some owls escaped the trio as they slept. Murray, the hippo, jolted awake at the sound of Izuku's voice. Huh, you gotta go. No, I am thirsty. Murray picked the boy up. You do realize you'll be up in a few hours, Mediterranean coast. Hang on, Izuku. Murray called out as he swam as fast as he could. I'll save you. The little boy was enjoying the water too much to see he was heading toward a swarm of jellyfish. Lucidly, a boat being driven by Sly arrived, and Bentley grabbed the boy out of the water. Unluckily, however, the jellyfish spied Murray and turned their attention to him. Ow! Murray hollered. I'm okay. Ow! Still okay. That night, loud snores and some owls escaped the trio as they slept. B. Bentley. Izuku cooed. The turtle smiled sadly as he escorted Izuku to the bathroom. I'm gonna get old on this routine. The next day, Izuku. Bentley screamed at the doodles of various heroes the little boy had done all over his notes and books before he saw how detailed they were. Never mind. Keep going. This could be useful. That night, the trio, despite being in pain and tired, rushed toward a screaming Izuku, who seemed to be having a nightmare of sorts. It's okay, little buddy. Murray cooed. We're here, we got ya. The boy stirred and whimpered, only to smile weakly at the sight of his caregivers, who all promptly fell into a blissful sleep. Izuku managed to kiss each of them on the cheek before falling asleep himself. From the private journal of Sly Cooper, by the time this journal becomes known to the public, it'll be no big secret that Izuku has this gift to bring out the best in people. Not exactly the taijutsu from that one ninja manga he read from a while. Apparently, he lost interest when he read about Ryuichi Cooper. But same principle. I mean, look at Bentley, Murray, and me. If we'd never found him, we probably wouldn't have been nearly as successful as we are. Knowing a little boy is waiting for you to come home makes you double down and make sure you get everything right. The fact that we got him to investigate people who could afford/deserve to lose also kept us from ever going off the deep end. That's another reason I'm not putting him in the Thievous Raccoonus. While few of my ancestors were heroic in their own way, never to the state he is, several of our enemies became friends. Because of Izuku, including, albeit after much back and forth, and both some physical and verbal sparring, the love of my life. Present-day Interpol Interrogation Room, they were both normally very patient. It came with the job for her, despite her successful career. For him, it had become a part of his life, waiting and planning along with the 3 raised him. She gently held his hand the whole time, sneaking in peeks on his brow and cheek whenever she could. The gentle squeezes he gave back warmed and broke her heart more. Mi precioso conejito. She cooed in a whisper. Come hell or high water, even if it cost her career. This vixen would have her sons back no matter what. 1 year before the events of Sly 1, Carmelita Fox was on the fast track at Interpol, barely out of the academy, and already she had earned enough respect and credit to be given her own crew for one of the biggest cold cases, the Cooper Gang. She credited her hard work ethic to this fast rise, as well as her skill in combat with and without her shock pistol. But her superiors saw something else as well, her kindness and genuine devotion to justice, best demonstrated in how she had first met a certain little boy. SCMHA Carmelita had been following a lead on a recent break-in attempt, the thief apparently stopping for lunch at a drive-through as they fled with a First Nations totem. She was just leaving after talking to the staff of said drive-through. All they could tell was that there were 3 of them over the intercom, and one had been famished while another annoyed. It was then that she heard whimpering and sniffles. Sly, A child's voice called out weakly. Murray, Bentley. Coming from behind the restaurant was a 4-year-old human boy with freckles, green bushy, almost broccoli-like hair and jade eyes, holding an All Might action figure, and another the Interpol agent didn't recognize, a male fox beastkin with a mustache, monocle, and top hat accompanied by Victorian-era clothes. Aquilindo. He's adorable, Carmelita thought, barely fighting the urge to sweep him in her arms and hold him tightly, and if she had any say, professionalism be damned, never let him go. Nino, she asked softly, bowing down to his level. What's wrong? Are you lost? Izuku's whimpering stopped at the sight of the pretty fox beastkin. She was the prettiest lady he had seen in his 4 years of life so far, so he blushed before spying the star on her jacket. I'm with Interpol, Carmelita assured the boy after realizing what he was starring. The police of the world, I guess you could say. I can help. I will help. Izuku's sniffling stopped. He knew this lady was nice, but what could he say? He had been in the van with Murray while Sly and Bentley stole their target. It had taken longer than the boy expected, and he'd fallen asleep. In their haste to leave after Murray's BLD sugar forced them to grab lunch, the trio had neglected to close the back door properly, and his sleeping bag had slipped outside. The little boy had just woken up a few minutes ago, as the sun began to set. His tummy then rumbled very loudly, making him blush in embarrassment, and thus, in turn, Carmelita to giggle. How about we get you something to eat first? She asked, offering a hand to the little boy. Arigato, One-san, the boy managed to say. Carmelita fought the urge to hug the boy with all her might, instead smiling and taking his hand to get back inside the drive-thru. She ordered a triple spicy habanero meal for herself and 2 kids' meals for the little boy. They then sat down and began to eat. The little boy very quickly, messy and adorable as he ravaged his meals. The rising star, or Interpol, started probing Small, asking the boy if he liked his food, then his name, Izuku Midoriya. She learned that he and his guardians were living out of a van, but that the 3 in question put his health, safety, and happiness above their own. They'd been running errands in a mad rush, and he had fallen asleep as they began a small argument, his sleeping bag falling out amidst the chaos. Murray always goes crazy when he skips his afternoon fruit, and apparently chocolate oranges don't count. Izuku explained, making Carmelita giggle before she saw the worried look on the boy's face. They won't be in trouble, will they? I'll tell them to be more careful, but I don't see any reason to do more. Carmelita said, from what you've told me, this was an honest mistake, and they're working towards getting a better home. So a warning. Izuku smiled before he finally went to the toys that came with his meal, 2 small action figures of heroes, one of Ryukyu and Salam. He then brought out his All Might and other toy and began to play out the 3 heroes chasing the other one. Do you like heroes, Izuku? Carmelita asked despite herself, who didn't like heroes. Well, aside from Endeavor, Captain Celebrity, Uwabami, and Slid and Go. She was brought out of these thoughts when Izuku's smile became so wide and his eyes so shin Carmelita swore the little boy had an illumination quirk. Yeah, especially All Might, but Salam and Ryukyu are cool too. They're so nice and strong. I want to be like them when I grow up. Someone who puts people's worries at rest with a big smile and can take out bad guys in a flash. He meant every word. Not a care for the wealth or fame, just genuine care for others. This brought a smile to Carmelita's face. Izuku's kind were a rare breed of kid. His 3 caregivers were clearly doing something right if he was this selfless. She then saw him frown Izuku. But I don't have a quirk. The boy confessed. It was the reason he had been so tired. Bentley had run some tests that revealed Izuku was normal. The shock and despair of not having a quirk had driven the boy into a deep cry and deeper sleep. He had heard bits and pieces of Sly, Bentley and Murray's arguments, but shrugged it off, due to it happening enough times for him to know it word for word. Carmelita gently placed a hand on Izuku's shoulder and lifted his face up with her other hand, clearing away some tears. You know, she paused, trying to find the right words. I met a few people like you. I work with them in Interpol. They're not famous like All Might or others, and they don't have powerful or flashy quirks, but to save people every day. Actually, Interpol is technically the first hero agency. Well, one of them. Izuku looked confused. I'll admit this, Izuku. A quirk certainly helps. But you know what matters even more? Being stronger, smarter, quicker, and having a good heart. If you're willing to work for it, I'm certain you will be a great hero. Izuku's eyes began to well up, but this time in happiness. Someone said he could become a hero. The sweet moment too, as interrupted by a raccoon beastkin racing inside to the counter, sweating and short of breath with reddened eyes. Have you seen a little boy with green hair, freckles, and he begged in a coarse voice, holding up a picture of Izuku Sly. Izuku beamed happily, racing towards his big brother. Sly was quick to take Izuku into his arms and give him a look over before hugging him as deeply and yet gently as he could. Are you okay? You hurt? Hungry? Buddy, we were so worried about you. I'm okay now, Sly. Izuku smiled, pointing to Carmelita. That pretty lady took care of me and was going to start calling Sly. Sly Cooper, despite his self-proclaimed titles of the charmer and the ladies' man, was awestruck by Carmelita Fox. She herself was surprised and in awe of him. Her own age, barely out of college probably, and he was already raising the little Conjito very well, if how he acted was anything to go on. Realizing they were just staring, the two composed themselves. I can't thank you enough, Miss Fox. Carmelita. The Interpol agent introduced herself. And please, no thanks necessary, beyond fixing your van's door and not losing this little precioso again. Fair enough. Please, let me buy you a cup of coffee, or a shake or pop at least. Sly offered, spying the remnants of the meals. Izuku, did you thank Miss Fox for your lunch and toys? Muchísimas gracias, Señorita Fox. Izuku smiled gratefully. Oh, you speak Spanish. Carmelita mused. A little. We travel all over with our work. Sly explained as he handed the lovely agent an ice-cold drink as he sipped his own. Before she could inquire as to what his work was, two more figures burst in Izuku. A masked hippo called out, sobbing and racing towards their table and taking the boy into a hug. Don't you ever scare us like that again. Murray's hug started turning Izuku blue. Luckily, the Bespel's turtle was quick to snatch the little BT away and inspect him. Aside from the ketchup, mustard and milkshake breath, you're as adorably perfect as usual. Bentley smiled, gently hugging Izuku. I am so sorry. It's okay, Bentley. Carmelita took care of me. Murray and Bentley smiled graciously at the Interpol agent. Hey, wait, that's them. The thieves. The teller shouted. And like that, the moment was ruined. Strategic withdrawal. Bentley and Sly called out, scooping up Izuku and dashing outside into the van, which sped off. However, before it vanished from sight, the Interpol agent saw a familiar symbol on it and realized who she had been talking to. Come back here, Sylvia. Carmelita roared as she raced after the van. Adios, Señorita Fox. Izuku waved happily and innocently. MHSC, and thus it began. Wherever the gang went, whatever they stole. Carmelita Fox was never far behind, doing her DMN best to bring the trio to justice and hopefully find Izuku-loving foster parents or take him in herself. She was not malicious in this intent, though. Unprofessional as it was, it quickly became apparent Carmelita had a very large soft spot for the little green-haired boy. Whenever he was in eyesight, she spoke a little softer and calmer. Unless, of course, she found him on Slice back, whereupon she'd fly into a rage and chase after the raccoon for child endangerment. It took everything in Sly, Bentley, and Murray's will to crush the notion of using Izuku as a nom de plume, aka distraction. They may have been thieves, but they'd be damned if they risked their little charge of safety. That was another thing that vexed Carmelita whenever it came up. Neither Bentley, Murray, or Sly could regularly describe their exact feelings towards the boy, which led her to believe they didn't fully care about him. She'd be proven/assured to be very wrong on the anniversary of their fateful meeting, but that's a little ways away. For to tell that story, we must first learn of the Cooper gang's first true adventure. Present day, sitting in the interrogation room with his mother, helped Izuku calm his nerve a little bit. He did not regret what he did. He had been protecting not only his family, but all of reality. It was terrible that the mad idiot refused to listen to him, but thinking of it now, he probably was dead before he even made it halfway through falling off the Eiffel Tower. The Interpol officers on the scene had not roughed him up when they arrested him and had done as he requested by hooking him up to a lie detector, the best and most accurate they had, at least in machine form. This way, no matter what, no one would be able to claim he lied. The door suddenly swung open, and the mother and son's attention was kept elsewhere. "Fox," the newcomer said, a slimy grin on his face, even as he struggled to carry several heavy and very filled files. "Jared," Carmelita growled with annoyance. "Ah yes, this guy." Izuku had heard of him, Jared Lynx, a very ambitious greenhorn at Interpol and one of Slice's biggest naysayers, frequently trying to prove he was still up to his criminal ways to climb the ladder, as if one bust was what it took to make a career. "Izuku Midoriya." Jared smirked as he sat down. "Cooper, adopted and you know it." Izuku retorted on instinct. "Only 3 years ago," Jared noted, pulling up the adoption paper. "Quite a record of appearances for a kid. And now, you're a murderer." "Idiota, if you read the report." Carmelita growled, reaching for her shock pistol. "Mama, let him speak." Izuku begged, pleading in his eyes. Carmelita let out a breath and sat back down. "Okay, Mr. Lynx, what do you want?" "Well, as an accessory to the takedown of several prominent criminal gangs," Jared began with a smirk. "If you tell us what you know, maybe we can work out a deal to 40 years instead of life. Not that you'll live that long, but okay then, let me explain everything." Izuku sighed, cutting off Jared as he began to remember how all this started. 7 years ago, Interpol, HQ 11:30 a.m. Sly, come in. "Do you read me?" "SLLLLY. Yeah, I read you. Loud and very loud." Sly winced. "I could hear you from here," another voice cut in. "Sorry, I'm a little nervous. Trying to break into police headquarters does that." "Get over it, Bentley. You're safe in the van. I'm the thief here. I got to steal that file from Inspector Carmelita Fox." Sly said, "Hey, I'm helping." Izuku pouted, "Of which I still have mixed feelings, but appreciate." Sly said, patting the boy on the head, making him giggle. Sly's points rang true. Even before Bentley and Murray decided to do this job, Izuku had developed a knack of getting himself in trouble. Being only 6, this was to be expected, but the kid also had a knack for learning tricks quickly and picking up on little things Bentley overlooked. "Well, count on me to be your eyes and ears." Got their security system totally scoped. "To get inside, you're going to have to go through that air vent." Sly nodded. "All right, we're going in. I can squeeze through no problem." Izuku proudly said as Murray came on the binocicom. "And don't forget you've got me at the wheel, you guys. All you got to do is grab the file and get back to the van. We'll do the rest. Just keep that engine running, Murray. We'll be down in no time." Sly smiled as he motioned Izuku to follow him. "Come on, little buddy." And with that, the two leapt onto the next balcony, Izuku never too far behind his big brother. Sly smiled at his little brother's progress. The kid was pretty good for his age, yet he needed to work on sticking his landings. The smaller landing points were always tricky, and there was a reason Bentley had given him that grappling hook, but Sly was proud of. "Wait, what were those?" "Hey, Bentley, I think I'm seeing things," the raccoon said aloud, pausing mid-step. "Sly," Izuku asked. "I'm seeing little blue dots. Maybe it's vertigo." "Interesting," Bentley mused. "I've read about this. MSTR raccoon thieves can sense thieving opportunities, which manifest as auras. Just go along them and let your instincts do the rest." "Instincts? Got it. Izuku, what's with the prune look?" Izuku was squinting his eyes, trying to see what Sly saw. "I don't see any auras," he said dejectedly. A sign the kid was not meant for this kind of work, Sly mused. He was saddened by this, but considering how much Izuku longed to be a dashing hero, the raccoon took this as a sign there was still hope. Just needed a few more years and some more experience. "Don't worry about," he assured the boy. "Just follow me." They backed up and scrawled against the water tower before leaping onto the chimneys nearby. Izuku nearly lost his footing once or twice, but he was quick to correct himself and follow Sly. Once they were at their entry, Izuku smirked as he slid through the bars and down the vent, only to be greeted by a long fall with moving lasers. "Careful," Bentley called out in worry. "If you touch even one of those lasers, you'll set off the alarms. Oh, and get burnt to a crisp." Izuku leapt downwards and just waited for the lasers to move before he leapt lower and lower, finally coming down to the bottom and slamming the floor door, bringing him into the hallway of the top Interpol offices. Being a kid has its advantages. The human smirked as Sly caught up to him, a playfully angry glare on his face. "Good moves, but next time, let the big thief go first. Learn from his mistakes." "You don't make mistakes," Izuku pointed out. "Nice job. You're in." "Inspector Carmelita Fox's office is behind the red door," Bentley said. Izuku moved to open the door, but the knob wouldn't budge no matter how much he turned it in his little hands. "It won't budge." He then decided to try something Murray had taught him. He blew on his palms, rubbed them together, shook out his wrists, took a deep breath, and pulled again, before racing back and trying to smash through the door. All he got was shaking and vibrations. "I won't BBUBU budge." He managed before Sly put a hand on his head to stop the shaking. "That door must be super reinforced. Maybe there's a way to get around it." Sly looked out the open window and smirked as he picked up Izuku gently and had him cling to his back as he went outside and clung to the scaffolding before scooching across to the other open window, leading into the office. "Way to go, Sly. This is where Inspector Carmelita Fox stashes all her important files. I hacked into the police security mainframe and discovered this vault's combo. Try dialing in 937. "Ooh, can I try?" Izuku asked excitedly as Sly chuckled, ruffling the little boy's hair. "Knock yourself out, kiddo." Izuku dialed in the numbers and allowed Sly to whack the vault wheel with his cane, causing it to open up and reveal the files. "Nice job, you got it." Murray cheered. "If you come down through the fire escape and head through the parking lot, we'll be waiting in the getaway van." "Let's go, little buddy," Sly said as he and Izuku prepared to leave only for a voice to stop them. "Criminal." Looking towards one of the nearby buildings, they saw none other than Inspector Carmelita Fox herself perched on the rooftop. "You foolish raccoon. I caught you red-handed." Sly simply smirked. Carmelita, I haven't seen you since we gave you the slip in Bombay. Which reminds me, you need to return the Firestone of India to its rightful owners." "Ah, and I was going to give it to you as a little token of my dash," Sly started, only to be cut off by "Hi, Miss Fox." Izuku waved as Carmelita noticed the little human boy and smiled before narrowing her eyes at Sly. "Wait, you brought him with you?" "He followed me," Sly weakly replied as Izuku just continued to wave at Carmelita, not seeing his big brother in trouble. "And you didn't have Murray or Bentley keep an eye on him?" she snapped. From in the van, Murray and Bentley grimaced, then recalling the few times they had tried to keep Izuku under wraps. The less said about those, the better, but if one must know details. The Cooper gang was never going back to Alberta or Morocco after 2 incidents. Back to the story. "Trust me, I wish he'd stay with the rest of my gang where it's safe, but he just keeps tagging along." Sly playfully shrugged. "And besides, he's the one you'll need to talk to about the Firestone. Something about the original owners." Izuku sheepishly chuckled as Carmelita sighed and massaged her eyebrows. Now she knew that case was done. In recent years, if the Cooper did not keep what they took, they often returned the stolen item to ancestral owners or the closest remaining descendant of said owner. "At least now I can add child endangerment to your gang's crimes, Cooper." Carmelita growled after taking a deep breath, adjusting the setting on her shock pistol, and taking a deep breath as her voice turned sweet. "Izuku, Conjito, would you tell me where the Firestone of India is? Poor favor." "Oh, I gave it to the natives who were the original owners," Izuku said with a bright smile, proving Carmelita's worry. "Took me a whole night on Bentley's computer to find them and another day to get over the anger of colonization. But I found them and sent it back to them, A point the boy was more suited to hero than thief work. Carmelita thought, a tired smile on her face. She could already see the mountains of paperwork and PR trouble once she reported this. When Izuku heard rightful owner, he proved he took after Bentley by researching until he found 100% someone did own something. It was something the Fox Beastkin both adored and wished the boy would grow out of. Wow, Sly gasped, in awe of both his little brother's thoroughness and something else. You know, Carmelita, that bazooka really brings out the color of your eyes. Sly, that's a shock pistol. Izuku corrected. Good eye, raccoon. Conjito. And it has quite a punch too, might even snap you out of your criminal ways. Carmelita smirked. She was hoping for that last part. Yes, Sly was a thief and needed to pay for what he did, but she was not blind to the fact he stole from Iether criminals and was raising Izuku quite well considering his lack of resources. She often wondered what he'd be like if he put that kind of skill and talent into doing full-time good. Anyway, love to stick around and chat, but I just dropped by to pick up this case file. I think you've had it long enough. Bye, Ms. Fox. Izuku waved again as he clung to Slice back as they made their escape into the getaway van. Ordinarily, Carmelita would have used her pistol to try and stop them, but with Izuku in the fray, she wouldn't dare take the shot. Hence, why the two got to the Cooper van so quickly. You can't escape me, raccoon. Carmelita snapped, shaking her fist. And yet they just had. From the private journal of Sly, Cooper once again, my gang, and I had given Inspector Carmelita Fox the slip. I was surprised to see how well she took it. Izuku felt a little bad, but Murray and Bentley praising him for such a good job made him forget that. Finally, the secret police file I've been searching for all these years. With this, I could avenge my family and regain possession of our most valued treasure. It all began when I was just a kid, bouncing on my father's knee. You see, I come from a long line of MSTR thieves who kept all their secrets of sneaking and stealing in an ancient book, the Thievous Raccoonus. Anyone who read it learned to be especially sneaky, which is why we specialize in stealing from criminals. After all, there's no honor, no challenge, no fun stealing from ordinary people. You rip off a MSTR criminal, and you know you're MSTR thief. Well, on the night I was supposed to inherit the book, 5 visitors came unannounced to our door. My father fought to protect us, but the gang of villains known as the Fiendish Five overpowered him and ransacked our house until they found the Thievous Raccoonus. Our family's manual of thieving greatness fell into their filthy hands. They tore the book into 5 pieces and split it up, each villain disappearing to the farthest corners of the world to commit dastardly crimes. Broke and alone, I was dumped at the town orphanage. There, I met 2 guys who became my lifelong buddies and trusted crew. Bentley, techno genius and strategist supreme, and Murray, part-time driver and full-time burden. And that was all before we got Izuku, our little mascot. Together, we pledged to track down the Fiendish Five, avenge my father, and steal back the Thievous Raccoonus. I knew I was about to face the toughest test of my life. On this mission, I would either become an MSTR thief like my ancestors before me, or fail and allow my family name to bite the dust. What I couldn't have known at the time was that this adventure would also be the start of a new legacy. From the private journal of Sly, Cooper the road trip gave me the time I needed to study up on Sir Raleigh the Frog. As a young man, this hot-tempered frog grew bored of his life of luxury and privilege. On a whim, he tried his hand at a bit of piracy and found it to his liking. Raleigh, who quickly became addicted to crime, was brought into the Fiendish Five as chief machinist, where his evil tinkering genius rose to new heights. He escaped with the notes of Ryoichi Cooper when the 5 attacked my dad and tried to kill me, but his winged boss stopped him. The last reported sighting of this mad machinist was off the southern coast of the Isle of Wrath, a small island uncomfortably situated in the middle of the perilous Welsh Triangle. 7 years ago, Welsh Triangle, Isle of Wrath. Once the van had arrived at a good spot to park, Sly leaped out of the van, Izuku clinging to his back as they made their way onto the island itself, ready to explore and gather anything to assist them. Izuku was only going to cling to Sly at first, until they reached a point where it made sense for them to split up. At that point, he'd be going his own way. Sly had figured it'd be best for Izuku to have some means of defending himself, so he got him his own miniature cane and a wristwatch with various gadgets built into it courtesy of Bentley's tinkering skills. As Sly walked, Izuku took in their surroundings. The dark gray stone of the island was covered here and there with patches of green grass, showing where they need to be careful to keep from making noise or leaving traces. His eyes moved to where most of the island was blocked off by a gate. "Hey, Sly, I just spotted something that's going to complicate the mission. See that nasty-looking gate? It blocks the only road leading into Raleigh's hideout." Bentley said, "We can see it, Bentley." Sly chuckled, rolling his eyes. "We could just climb over it." "You mean you're going to throw me over the gate to open it for you from the other side?" Izuku asked eagerly. "We'll call that Plan B," Sly answered with a soft chuckle. "I was thinking we could climb up over there." He gestured to a structure near the gate, where a broken ladder hung carelessly. "Oh, okay." Izuku clung tighter to Sly's back as he made his way across the open ground. Once up and over, they split to go to either side of a spotlight that swept over the path. As they approached the guard, Izuku shot a dart from his wristwatch before he caught sight of them. It penetrated his clothes and stuck in his back, putting him asleep. Not far beyond, they caught sight of a large boat with a strange device floating over it. "What's that?" Izuku asked. "According to my amphibio positioning system, that big blimp is where Raleigh is hiding out," Bentley noted. "You know, that blimp looks more like a machine than a hideout," Sly said as he looked closer with his binocular. "Kind of like a sky submarine or something," Izuku added. "Like that one part in One Piece." "You're right. That is a storm machine. It's the reason why it never stops raining around here," Bentley affirmed. Sly frowned as he noticed something. "That explains all the wrecked ships. But why would Raleigh want bad weather at his own hideout?" Bentley inquired. "Probably because his pirate ships are designed for it," Izuku suggested. "I mean, most ships are designed for peak function in normal weather, but able to handle bad weather. Ships designed to function at their peak in bad weather, however, would be at a disadvantage, and possibly not even function in good weather. That plus a machine that gives constant bad weather would be a huge advantage for a pirate." Sly and Bentley were both silent for a time as Izuku looked innocently confused at their staring. "So which of us gets to wrench our shoulders over that one?" "I think he gets to pick where we go for dinner once we take down Raleigh," Bentley offered warmly. "He's learned well." "I can agree with both those points," Sly agreed as he ruffled Izuku's fluffy mop of green hair. "Have we ever told you how smart you are, kiddo?" "A whole lot." Izuku giggled bashfully, his chubby freckled cheeks glowing pink. "Exactly." Cooper, meanwhile, as the Cooper gang prepared themselves, Raleigh was busy entertaining. "Something wrong, Baru?" he asked the more humanoid frogwoman he sat next to. "You've hardly touched your food. Where are my children?" Baru Azui demanded. "Now, my dear cousin, is this the thanks I get for giving you the funds that helped you set up your law firm?" Raleigh sighed as he sipped at a glass of Chardonnay. "I'd have never accepted that money if I knew where and how you got it." Baru snapped. "So you and Samrat are fine for now," the top hat-wearing frog mused. "The boy is hysterical. He's a terrified baby. Your nephew. And it is that bond alone that has kept me from selling them off." Raleigh surged. "Now, if you were to get over your moral dilemma and aid me in that cumbersome little detail, I'd be more than happy to let you take them back. But I do realize it has been a long day of travel for you, and you are expecting. I'll give you a night to think it over." With a clap of his hands, a beaver beastkin escort Baru to her room. Cooper, as Izuku and Sly made their way to the entrance to Raleigh's lair, they found a safe nearby. "Guys, that safe is connected to the code you found earlier. I'll send you the schematics so that you can unlock it." Putting in the code, which was 729, Sly smacked the vault open with his cane. What he saw made his ears perk up in excitement, as it was a page with very familiar writing. "It's one of the pages of the Thievous Raccoonus." "Whoa!" Izuku exclaimed as he looked over Sly's shoulder to read it with him. The page contained the notes on Drake Cooper and his knockout dive attack, which he used to dash past enemies while knocking them out so he could more easily bypass defenses. "Well, this might be a fun little move to use." Sly chuckled as he pocketed the page safely in his backpack before leaving the Cooper calling card. "Hey, what are you two doing here?" angrily asked a Beaver Beastkin guard, who took out a golden throwing star only for Izuku to instinctively rush in front of him and dive into his stomach, knocking the wind out of him and giving Sly the opening to knock him out with a smack from his cane. "Izuku, what was that?" Sly asked in surprise. "To know, I thought that move was so cool, and I wanted to try it," Izuku explained, looking scared. "Hey, are you mad? Mad? Are you? Kidding. I'm impressed." Sly laughed as he picked up his little buddy in a hug. "You have the makings of a Cooper thief, after all." While I'm also impressed with Izuku's strange ability to learn from the tricks of the Cooper clan, you guys should get moving," Bentley said as Sly and Izuku stopped their little celebration and continued on their way. Sly looked up at the store machine now that they were closer. "That blimp looks like the most secured location on this boat. If Raleigh's really as smart as his police file suggests, then that's where we'll find him." "Wonderful idea, but your plan is flawed." "Why's that, Bentley?" Izuku asked. "Because it's impossible to get near him. To access Raleigh's blimp, you would have to sneak through that high-voltage power tube. To do that without getting electrocuted, you'd have to destroy that power generator." Bentley, you forget you've been showing Izuku the ropes on hacking in. He's always been a fast learner." Izuku smirked as he cracked his fingers. OWI. A few minutes later, Sly wrapped up the boy's hands and then let him do his thing. Izuku took out a PDA and connected it to a nearby outlet. He was greeted with lines of code at first, but a quick press on the device turned the data into a Pac-Man-style game. After a few minutes, Izuku was in, and with a triumphant boop, the storm suddenly ceased growing, and an elated Sly nuzzled the 7-year-old's nose. "Not bad at all, Izuku." Bentley smiled from his comlink. "We'll practice more when you get back." "Bents?" Sly asked. "Sorry, I'm picking up something." The turtle mused, quickly working through the systems. "Oh goodness, what's up?" Sly asked. "There are kids here." Bentley gasped as he forwarded a screen to the two thieves, showing a frog-like girl no older than Izuku, trying to comfort a screaming baby. "I'm running them through the databases." Two in Samurai Isu. The mother's head of one Japan's biggest law firm. Oh, what is it, Bents?" Sly asked. "Seems that they're Raleigh's niece and nephew, but he ain't treating them warmly." Izuku's heart immediately went out to the two kids, and his fist began to shake with anger. A righteous anger that gave Sly an idea. "All right, Izuku, new plan. You get those two out, I'll find the pages Raleigh stole." The little boys saluted and went the opposite direction. Present day, and thus the start of my first rescue. Izuku explained to Jared. "And before you say anything, Brew wrote a book and told Selkie everything." Carmelita whipped out her phone and showed an e-book to Jared titled The Thief and the Tadpoles by Baru Ajui. She then also opened an archived HPSC report from Selkie. Jared frowned at losing such a promising other source, but motioned Izuku to continue his story. It had taken Izuku less than a minute to reach where the children were being held. Evidently, Raleigh, for how smart as he was, didn't think they needed too many guards. Sticking to the corner and shadows, the boy contemplated what he'd need to take out the guards without drawing attention, possibly disable the cameras and reunite the kids with their mother, who it seemed was on the other side of the blimp in a room close to her cousins. He had his cane, his wristwatch with knockout darts, which he immediately decided were last choice, as guards suddenly dropping would cause a scene, and the PDA he'd used earlier. It would probably take Raleigh a day to set up anti-software against it, considering he seemed focused on his machine, but better save that for last too. Izuku had been so absorbed in his thoughts and mumbling that he'd actually walked right into a guard. Wasting not a second, he jumped up and pinched under the guard's jaw. "What are you doing?" the guard asked. "The nerve pinch knockout," Izuku weakly confessed. "Oh, no. You're doing it too high, kiddo," the guard said, moving the 7-year-old's hands to the nape of his neck. "See, you got to get the neck and shoulder too. It's where the nerve bunches. Like this," Izuku asked, following the beaver's instruction. "That'll do it." The guard gave the boy a thumbs up before fainting. "Wait a nice guard. I guess Canadians really are soft. Izuku muttered as he pulled the guard down the hall, catching his breath after doing such. A/N. I am Canadian. I can make that joke. Besides, if you've seen any episode of CBC's The Fifth Estate, you'll know our prison system is... Never mind, sorry. He could now see the room being guarded by 2 more guards and a camera far enough so that if he handled this right, he wouldn't be seen right away. Now therein was the question. How would he go handling that? Shouldn't gamble on another lucky turn. But I don't have a hologram of Pretty Beaver Lady. Plus, Carmelita says that kind of stuff stopped being acceptable after the 50s. He then remembered something Murray had once told him. Sometimes thinking is great. And you and Bentley, you think awesome. But when you're buddies or someone is in trouble, sometimes you just gotta do. Motivated by his big brother's words, Izuku steeled his resolve and climbed up the walls with his cane in his mouth. Sly had gotten Bentley to put some tiny suction cups on the digits and palms of his gloves for such an occasion. He then waited until he was certain the camera was turned, and then, bonk, bonk. Not as slick as Sly. Izuku mused as he shuffled through their pockets, finding the key card. But I'll take what I can get for now. He then opened the door and saw a little girl about his age trying to comfort a baby boy. Both were shivering, so Izuku pulled off the vests of the guards and made his way over to them. It's okay. It's okay. He tried to look nice and non-threatening, which even with the mask, he seemed to be, as the girl asked, "You're here to help us, Ribbit?" Izuku smiled and nodded, wrapping them up in the vests. Seeing the baby was crying still, Izuku offered him his finger to play with. The boy stopped crying and grabbed the finger with a giggle, even sucking on Izuku's finger. "Come on, let's get you two somewhere safe," Izuku said, leading them back the way he'd came. But Uncle Raleigh said no hero or police will come here. He's knocked out any cell service and pays off the harbor. The girl mentioned, "Oh, and my name is Sue." Izuku Cooper, our little hero replied, then handing her his communicator and a number. "This isn't on cell service, and that number is for an Interpol agent. She'll come." "And where are you going?" Suyu asked as Izuku was heading back inside. "To help my big brother stop your uncle." Izuku smiled, also tossing Suyu a bottled milk and some cookies. "Call when I'm out of sight." Cooper Carmelita had given Izuku her personal number a year ago in Alberta. Sly, Bentley, and Murray had been stealing back some dinosaur bones and left them at the Tyrell Museum, where she'd happened to be on the lookout. Seeing the little green Congedo, she'd done as stated with the hope he'd call her if anything happened. So, you can imagine her surprise when in a few minutes from then, a little girl had called her on that number. "Gracias for this, Selkie." She thanked the seafaring seal hero from Japan, who'd landed on the Woolch Isles pursuing pirates. "Not a problem. Been meaning to investigate that whole mess myself. You being here and commanding my boat means the HPSC won't get on my back. Only, how did you know about this kidnapping?" "Not me," Carmelita insisted. "I have a little friend who wants to be a hero and keeps his ears open for this kind of stuff." Selkie smiled. "Seems like a good kid." "He is." Carmelita smiled, then remembering. "Say, I know this kind of unprofessional, but could I get your and your crew's autographs for him?" Not a problem." Selkie beamed. "Girls, autograph time." His crew quickly finished their duties and signed a few sheets of paper as Carmelita turned to face the cloud, so that the pro wouldn't see her worried face. "Please, Congedo, don't be there when we get there." Cooper, Sly, and Izuku managed to regroup not even a full 10 minutes after Izuku dropped off Tsu and Sumerade. With the Thievous Raccoonus pages Sly had collected, they skimmed through them to see all they could. The first was old Sally Cooper's raccoon roll move, which she used to roll around and bypass high-rise security. It was said she could move faster rolling than on her own 2 feet. After, that was Karen Cooperjawa's coin magnet formula, which she invented to attract all stray metallic goods to her cane using a special electromagnetic pulse. Next was Chris Cooper, the son of Dre Cooper. He had improved on his father's knockout dive by adding a special technique that allowed him to swipe the valuables or possessions of any targets he hit. Last but certainly not least was Dev Cooperinda and his slow-motion jump technique. He used it in order to make perfectly timed jumps so that he could find the perfect perches and dodge certain attacks. With all the pages Raleigh has collected in their possession, the duo was now ready to confront the frog himself. Finding an old cannon, the two got a sneaky idea on how to get onto the storm machine's main deck. "Are you sure you're up for this, little buddy?" Izuku beamed. "Being shot out of cannon, like in the circus." "Sounds fun." Sly chuckled and shook his head as he used friction from his cane to light the cannon and quickly jumped inside with Izuku in his arms. The cannon then fired, sending them crashing through the window of the storm machine and conveniently into Raleigh's main hideout. "Let's do that again." Izuku beamed, clapping his hands in delight. "How delightful. We have guests," the frog beastkin said, sitting on a throne. "The only thing I hate unexpected guests." Sly stood up, making sure Izuku was unharmed before glaring at the amphibious villain. "Listen, Raleigh, wipe out my family and steal what's mine, you better expect company. And that's not even counting what you did to your own family." Izuku said with anger. "Oh, I'm ever so sorry," Raleigh said, wiping a fake tear from his eyes. "How sloppy of me not to finish the job. Obviously, we should have snuffed you out as well, Sly Cooper. Why clockwork didn't let me, I'll never understand." "Who?" Izuku asked. "Later," Sly ordered, gently pushing his charge to the side. "Get back. He's mine." So, without further ado, Raleigh, who'd been ranting the whole time, said, "Let me make some amends by, say, bloating 2 gargantuan size and squishing you like the insignificant bug that you are." He'd then leapt from his seat and swallowed a fly, battling Sly on several platforms that would sink and rise if one stayed on them for too long. The frog used his sudden burst of muscles and his tongue to fight Sly, who coolly whipped back 2 attacks with his cane while using Dev's slow-emote jump to confuse Raleigh. Eventually, Raleigh reverted to normal and swallowed another fly, gaining another burst of muscle, and that was when Izuku got the idea. The fight continued between Sly and the first of the 5 who destroyed his family, the normally calm and cool raccoon not cracking a single quip as he bobbed and weaved Raleigh's attacks, just waiting for him to return to normal so he could pummel him. Once he did, the frog smirked and threw out his tongue, only for it to return empty. His eyes widened in shock. He tried again, barely avoiding a hit from Sly. Still nothing. "Wait, where are my flies?" Raleigh gasped. "Right here." Izuku beamed, revealing a jar filled with the flies that once been aplenty in the room. "I wonder if your quirk ties into your stomach and certain bugs, so..." As it turned out, Izuku was right. Raleigh's quirk, Fly Fighter, enabled him to, depending on what variety of fly he ate, boost his strength, speed, or a lack of empathy. Shame that for such a supposed genius, he only stuck with strength and empathy killing. Not that he had much empathy if the enraged look on his face meant anything. "You worthless brat," Raleigh snapped, abandoning Sly and leaping towards the little boy. "Give those to me." While startled and scared at the criminal leaping towards him, Izuku managed to toss the jar over Raleigh and throw it into the waters below. Snarling, the frog tackled the boy, and they started falling towards the water. Pow! An enraged punch sent Raleigh flying and skidding onto a platform, while Izuku found himself forced on Sly's back. "What are you doing to my little buddy?" the raccoon, in a rare but pure state of rage, asked. But he gave Raleigh no time to respond. His mind was back on that horrid night, when Raleigh had found him his hiding place and aimed a pistol at him before the avian member of the fearsome 5 stopped him. He tried to kill Sly all those years ago, and now he'd have no problem killing Izuku. That was not going to happen if Sly was drawing breath. The rest of the fight was nothing but Sly pummeling Raleigh black and blue, the once arrogant and proud frog soon begging for mercy. "Sly, stop," Izuku suddenly called out. Instantly, all the anger left Sly, his attention now on Izuku. Raleigh, barely breathing and twitching, was trying to say something. Benz. He's basically saying that we're nowhere near ready to take on the others, especially Panda King and Mugshot, Bentley said, and now he's ranting and raving about being bested by a kid. Sly smirked at that and kicked Raleigh for one last measure before checking Izuku. Cooper, Hugh, and Sumidare hadn't waited too long. Selkie's boat saw them, and the pro rushed over, asking if they were okay. Carmelita opted to stay with them, while he and his crew rounded up Raleigh's gang, and she radioed Interpol for backup. Buru Ajui had hugged her children and thanked Selkie and Carmelita, vowing nining to stand against her cousin and accept any punishment. The Fox Bee Skin, elated to see such a fiendish criminal in such a pitiable state, assured Buru she wouldn't be in too much trouble. "And I'm not the one you should be thanking," Carmelita added. "Credit for all this should go to Izuku Cooper. He saved me and Sumi Mama." So you smiled. Even gave us some food and the phone thingy we used to call Carmelita. And at that moment, Tsu knew what she'd want to do with her life. Become a hero, just like the boy who'd saved her family. Carmelita Fox was proud of her little Conjito for that. And she ignored the familiar van that managed to sneak away before a permitter was set up. Present Jared grimaced. No real way to spin that around. Suddenly the door swung open. "Objection!" In walked a tall man in a suit, actually pushing Jared to the side. Hiromi Higuruma, Ajui Law and Order, the lawyer for Izuku Cooper / Midoriya. "Why was I told informed of my client being here? Do you have any idea how many policies and procedures you violated without me being here, Greenhorn?" Carmelita and Izuku, while surprised, they didn't have a lawyer yet. Delighted at Jared being cowed by this man. And to answer your question, Higuruma said, "While I would have happily taken this case pro bono, I am under the employ of not only the Aoyama family, but Nedzu himself of UA. Now, hand over that recording and start a new one." Jared did just that. "Sorry I'm late, Sonora Cooper." The lawyer bowed. "Not only is traffic is France murder, but I literally had to beg Buru Ajui to let me take this case." "Oh," Carmelita asked, "and why is that?" "Unprofessional as it may be, I'll admit that I took this case because you and your husband took down someone who did a previous client of mine dirty. If I can be of aid." Carmelita smiled, knowing she liked this man. Izuku had just been smirking the whole time in nostalgia. "So, Mr. Lynx, shall I count on?" he suggested, perhaps about Melissa and David Shield. That was a much more fun adventure. From the private journal of Sly Cooper, it had been a while since I'd been back in use. A shame this visit was for business. Murray always said he wanted to take Izuku to any city that had a comic book superhero associated with it. And to be honest, their museums do have some tempting targets. Maybe another time. Next up on the Fiendish Five was the notorious mugshot, Ruthless Muscle. What he lacked in brains, he made up for in brawn. Turns out he wasn't always that way. He grew up as the run of the litter, the neighborhood weakling. The only friends he could turn to were usually found on the big screen. It was there that he spotted his first gangster, and he knew instantly that's what he wanted to be. He spent the rest of his youth working hard to get there, fueled by his dreams of great power and respect. With enough perspiration, he realized that dream. He'd become a hard-boiled, street-brawling, tough-as-nails gangster, ensuring that he'd never be picked on or pushed around again. So he's holed up in Mesa City. I've always wanted to go to that thriving American boomtown. Part of me wonders and worries if Murray would have wound up like that, if not for me or Bentley. And God forbid Izuku fell down that path. 7 years ago, Mesa City, United States, the van pulled to a halt at the end of the stable road, winding around the stone pillar that led to Mesa City. Beyond there, a stone bridge stretched over the deep chasm below, not strong enough to support the van and everyone in it driving across it. While not the only entrance to the city, careful study showed it was the least guarded by patrols, as nature did a good job keeping anyone from using this route. While an effective deterrent to law enforcement, a momentary obstacle at best for Coopers. "Hey, Sly, I thought you said Mesa City was going to be loud and busy. This looks more like a ghost town." Bentley noted over the binoculcom. "That's unfortunate. I was hoping the busy streets would make it easier to sneak through the place." Sly frowned. "Maybe we can figure out what happened," Izuku suggested. "Look, there are a lot of poles there." Sly smirked, realizing Izuku was right. The special pages of the Thievous Raccoonus they got from Raleigh earlier detailed the exploits of Ryoichi Cooper, Sly's ancestor from feudal Japan, who patented the ninja spire jump that allowed him to perch on even the most narrow of points to sneak through the thickly fortified castles he robbed from. Because Izuku was able to also learn the tricks of the Thievous Raccoonus inexplicably, he followed Sly as they hopped across the strung lights. At one point, they had to hop down to ground level, which drew the attention of a large guard dog who sat up from his bone to growl threateningly. Sly got ready to act, but Izuku rushed forward and suddenly began scratching the dog behind one ear, whispering some gentle words to it as it lulled to peaceful sleep. "Well, that was effective," Sly noted. "I learned it from that dog whisperer in Mumbai." Izuku beamed. It wasn't the only guard dog the duo encountered on the way into the city, but each was dealt with the same way. Before long, they caught sight of a passage lined with blinking lights on the floor. "What's with those flashing lights?" "The latest in high-tech security, electronic floor sensors. Step on them and you're a goner," Bentley explained over the binocular. "Then we won't do that," Sly offered teasingly, moving swiftly past the obstacle, Izuku following close behind. At that point, the only path forward led past guards, forcing Izuku to make use of a special knockout dart. "At least this way they won't know for sure where we entered from, since we left conscious guard behind us, right?" "Very good, little buddy," Sly praised, ruffling the boy's hair. "That's exactly right." A brief detour from the main path to a distant pinnacle led the pair to the vault containing yet another page of the Thievous Raccoonus, this one covering Rob McCooper's explosive hat technique, which involved infusing inner energy into copies of one's hat to turn it into a mine that could be lobbed out where guards might stumble across it, knocking themselves out from the release of energy. "Think I'll stay off that one until you're a little older, buddy." Sly smiled and now pouting Izuku. "Or at least save it for when you're not around. But I want to use my hair to make explosions." The little boy pouted. "Present day, absolutement, no." Carmelita snapped, making her son cow. "Lo siento, mama." Izuku muttered. "Back to the story." "Oh, come on, Sly," Murray said over the comlink. "Let Isa try. After all, it's never too early for your first explosion." "That coming from the hippo who blew up the orphanage chimney," Bentley added, "when he was 8. Well, how was I supposed to know pop and candies were dangerous mixed together?" Murray retorted, deciding to turn off the comlink. The duo soon made their way past the locked gates leading into the rest of the city. What greeted them was a dusty shopping center, tumbleweeds rolling around and wind chimes being the only things make noise. "This is creepy," Izuku muttered, holding on to Sly. "Daddy, look." Sly and Izuku turned to see two humans looking down from a hotel room's patio. One an adult with orangish-brown hair, the other a little girl with blonde hair. Hello down there," the man waved shyly. "What did you get in?" Sly now knew something was up. These two seemed to be the only people, aside from Mugshot's goons. "Can we talk?" Sly asked, getting a nod from the man. The raccoon then took Izuku into his arms and, after some of his ancestors' tricks, made his way onto the patio. "The name's Sly Cooper. This is my little brother, Izuku." Izuku shyly waved back, for which the man smiled. "I'm David Shield. This is my daughter, Melissa." The little girl offered a hand for Izuku to shake, which he took. "Melissa, why don't you and Izuku go to the game room while me and Sly talk?" Melissa's eyes beamed, as did Izuku's and Sly's. The raccoon beastkin happy for Izuku to have a friend his age. As the two played a hero game, David made Sly some coffee as he beamed to explain what had happened. "We came here to bury my wife," David explained sadly, making the mood dampen. "I'm so sorry," Sly said, genuinely meaning it. Sure, he'd never married, and by the looks of things, Carmelita didn't feel the same way for him, but he couldn't bear to imagine life without her. "My thanks. She was only sick for a few days." David continued. "She was born and raised here. Heck, we even met here, and I thought it'd help Melissa." Sly sipped his coffee. "I can imagine that for an Island scientist. Arranging that was tricky. It would be if I wasn't All Might's original sidekick." David mused, waiting for a shocked response. He got none. Sly had known who this man was the moment he saw him. Izuku had scoured the internet to find and learn as much about heroes as possible, and David's name had come up. Realizing that he wouldn't get the shock he associated with dropping Toshi's name, David continued. We got into Mesa City no problem, and the burial went off without a hitch. We had fun for 2 days, and then the airport was shut down. From what I've heard through whispers, some casino tycoon named Mugshot took over the city and is denying entrance or leave until people spend a certain amount of time or money at one of his casinos. Guess Melissa and I were the last to catch that, as most of the town managed to flee before Mugshot legalized it. Hearing that took Sly for a loop. The casino scheme. Yeah, that matched Mugshot. Taking over a city, however. He could dream, but the muscle of the Fiendish Five had no chance, or even any CLUE to do that. Someone was helping him. But why? Now we're stuck here. Luckily, Melissa doesn't seem to realize. Island is sure to know, but supplies are starting to run low, and I have no idea when a pro will come. David chugged back his mug before letting out a sigh. So, Sly, what brings you to Mesa City? He asked. I have business with Mugshot. Sly admitted. He helped kill my parents and stole a family heirloom. And also, bust you and your daughter out of here. When David is collected to help Mugshot with an armor that'll deal with his weakness to sunlight, Izuku and Melissa would team up to sneak into his base and disable the security. During this time, Izuku would find Carmelita trapped in a closet, and she'd give him a pea shooter to defend himself with, a weapon he'd keep throughout the story. All Might would appear to help Sly take down Mugshot and happily give the Cooper gang a 10-minute head start. Izuku would stay out of the Miss Ruby mission, but Sly would ask her to use her voodoo powers to give Izuku one chat with his parents. This would give the Cooper trio some much-needed confirmation Inc. and Hisashi approved of them and hint at the reason they were killed. During the Panda King mission, Izuku would meet Hiryu Rin while exploring the village, and they'd work together to save avalanche victims. Murray would join them and meet Jing for the first time, setting up a long-distance relationship. Clockwork would be revealed to be the #1 Russian villain and hint at why the Midoriya parents were killed, all but outright mentioning one for all. His death ray, which he was aiming to use to hold Moscow ransom, being destroyed would cement that the Coopers were considered heroes in Russia. SLY2 Demurti would be revealed to Mina Ashido's uncle, the alien girl, and Izuku meeting at his club. The Countess would be the first villain Izuku truly faced on his own, trying to get him to give up on his hero dreams. Izuku, however, would endure and eventually defeat her, even getting her to confess to killing her husband. Nayla, due developing a soft spot for Izuku, who makes her think of what she could have been under better circumstances, would redeem herself and survive the events of the game. She would still go through with her plots, but help Bentley in saving the gang when the Countess threatened Izuku. Unlike in Nightmare Lord Sly and Ben's story, she would be arrested but eventually become the gang's eye in the black market. SLY3 Murray would challenge General Tao for Jing's hand Carmelita, and Sly would kill Dr. M after Izuku takes a hit for them. Sly would not fake his amnesia, instead working his sentence off in Interpol in exchange for his friend's freedom. He and Carmelita would marry and officially adopt Izuku as their son. Bentley and Penelope would remain a couple, marry and have a child. Penelope would not go rouge. SLY4 Sly and Carmelita would be partners in Interpol, investigating Law Paradox already. Sir Raleigh would return, replacing Penelope as the Black Knight, much like in Sly and Ben, and out for revenge on Izuku. Taking a page from Nightmare Lord Sly and Ben, the past Coopers may have had young Ward's Paradox's scheme would be foiled by his partner, revealed to be Mr. Compress, who steals the time machine and uses it to save his grandfather's reputation and spearheading the hero movement. Despite this, not much would change in the lives of the Cooper gang and the MHA canon. Lou Paradox, amidst a villainous breakdown, would kidnap Amy Yuga and engage with Izuku in a sword fight amid the Eiffel Tower, a battle he would eventually lose fatally. The My Hero Academia / current time story at the end of Izuku's tale, Lynx would be exposed as corrupt and arrested, while Izuku would get a scholarship to UA. Sly and the Cooper gang would be acquitted of any wrongdoing by claiming the events of the last game were part of a deep cover investigation. Aoyama and Izuku would become best friends due to their checkered past, and Izuku would be annoyed by Katsuki Bakugo and Shoto Todoroki, although he'd eventually befriend the latter. So, Mina and Hiryu would all reunite with / remember Izuku. Melissa would keep in contact with him due to being raised by Sly. Izuku would be more confident and suave, remaining a proud badass quirkless and embracing his Cooper heritage. This means Izuku would not get one for all. A ninth user of one for all was never decided, nor was Izuku's love interest ever finalized. Aizawa would be of mixed feelings towards Izuku, thinking him a villain in the making / liability, but also respecting the Cooper clan, who he sees as underground hero-like figures. Sly and Carmelita would have a child, giving Izuku a little sibling sometime after the sports festival. Eri would be saved much earlier and adopted by Murray and Jing. Clockwork would return in the Two Heroes movie as the true main villain, having arranged for a second hate chip to be transported there just in case he was destroyed. Thank you for joining us on this journey through What If Deku Was Sly Cooper's Child. We hope you found it as captivating as we did. A big thank you to Mrotrax for creating such an engaging story. Don't forget to visit their profile on fanfiction.net for more fantastic works. The link is in the description below. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and subscribe to Zen and Fanfics for more intriguing explorations into fanfiction and fantasy. Your support helps us create more content like this, and we love hearing your thoughts and suggestions in the comment section. See you soon in the next video.